I tried to play some games by myself, tried to watch a little bit of TV, even watched my neighbors out of the window. I played ball, dressed up our duck. I had no idea what to do. Tuesday, I put on my crazy socks and decided to try on some costumes for Friday. For the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. On Wednesday, I decided to go for a walk.
Hey kids, Miss Kathleen here. I was just walking around my neighborhood and thinking about what it means to love God and to love your neighbor. And if you notice, I'm wearing my Liberty Kids sweatshirt because it's a little chilly, but it is Liberty Kids t-shirt day. And don't forget to share your pictures on the Liberty Kids Facebook page and tag your pictures with the hashtag Liberty Kids Spirit Week.
Rules are really important, right? When cars are driving down the road, they have to drive on the right side. And when people are walking, they have to walk down sidewalks. When you're at school, you have to obey your teachers. And when you're at home, you have to obey your parents. And when you're at church, you have to listen to me and Miss Laura. In Jesus' day, the people had rules too. One day, a Pharisee asked Jesus, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment?" When we think of the commandments, we think of the 10 Commandments. Moses wrote those 10 Commandments on tablets of stone. But the Jews actually had 613 laws that they had to follow. They had to obey all of those. There were 248 things that they were supposed to do and 365 things that they were not supposed to do. Wow, that's a lot of do's and don'ts. Can you imagine trying to remember all of those? Listen to what Jesus said. Let's look in our Bibles to find out what Jesus said the greatest commandment was. It's in Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 40. And Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." Okay, so those first two things make a lot of sense, right? So we're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart and our soul and our mind. And second, we're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. So that makes a lot of sense. And then the third thing he said was all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. In other words, Jesus was saying basically, if you could obey those two commandments, it would be a lot easier to follow the other commandments too. So, what are some ways that we can love God? I think some ways that I love God with all my soul and my mind. One of them is by reading my Bible, spending time with God, and by reading my Bible, and by praying, and by going to church, even when that's online, and listening to the sermon with your parents, and doing the activities that we provided. Those are awesome ways to spend time with God. Loving your neighbor as yourself means treating others the way you want to be treated, and loving them the way that God loves us. So, it might mean for you being a little bit nicer to your sibling. Maybe including your younger sibling in a game that you're playing. Or helping your mom with the dishes even though you really would rather go play. There's lots of ways we can love our neighbor as ourselves right now because the world needs a lot of help. And a big way we can love our neighbor as ourselves is by praying for our neighbor. So, I want to see how you guys are loving your neighbor as yourself this week.
There are lots of ways that we can be loving our neighbor as ourselves this week. Comment down below and share how you're loving your neighbor as yourself. I want to challenge you and your family to love your neighbor as yourself and to share the love of Christ with those around you, whether it be your family or your neighbors or your friends. It can be from afar too. And it can even be an email or a phone call or a FaceTime or a letter. Be creative. We want to see what you can do. Share it down below. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Bye!